I hope you all are doing well and had a very great Christmas. Guys, before Christmas, the government had already given us its Christmas surprise. Yeah, the Christmas surprise of the government was two notifications which were issued on 22nd December 2020. Guys, these notifications are not just notifications. These notifications came up with very drastic changes under the GST law and which are very important for a taxpayer to understand these changes because their business will be dependent on these changes from 1st January 2021. So guys, let's start what are these changes and how these changes will impact your business in the coming year with a new year surprise. So guys, let's start with the first notification. So the first notification which was issued on 22nd December was notification number 92. Guys, what are the changes which were introduced under notification 92 and why we are curious to know about it? Guys, if you remember, so in Finance Act 2020, some of the changes were introduced under the GST Act and these changes were very important but they were not made effective till now. So guys, through this notification number 92, the government has made effective those provisions which were introduced in Finance Act 2020 from 1st January 2021. So those provisions which we will discuss have been made effective from 1st January 2021. Yes guys, as I already told you, it's your new year gift. So guys, let's start with the changes. So in this notification, 5 important changes introduced under Finance Act 2020 has been made effective. The first change is under section 16. Yes guys, section 16 talks about the eligibility of availment of input tax credit. Second change is about section 29 which talks about the GST registration. The third change is under section 31 which talks about tax invoices under GST. The fourth change is under section 51 which talks about the TCS provisions under the GST law. And the last and important change is under section 122 and section 132. These provisions are penal provisions and very drastic change has been introduced under these sections. So guys, let's start with the first change. In the first change which is introduced, which is made effective from 1st January 2021 is under section 16.4. Guys, first we will discuss about what is the section 16.4. So guys, as per this provision, the time limit for availing input tax credit against any invoice or debit note was earlier of the due date of filing September return for the next financial year or due date of filing annual return for the relevant financial year. And in this section, earlier for availing any input tax credit for a particular debit note was required to be computed from the date of original invoice and not from the date of issuance of debit note. So guys, let's take an example. Say for example, one invoice is issued on 1st January 2019 and debit note against such invoice was issued on 1st April 2019. So guys, before amendment, the time limit for availing input tax credit for that particular debit note was September 2019 because it was required to be computed from the date of original invoice and not from the date of issuance of debit note. But guys, now after amendment, this time limit will be computed from the date of debit note and now for that particular debit note which was issued on 1st April 2019, the time limit for availing input tax credit will be September 2020 GSTR 3B due date, that is 20th September 2020 if the government does not extend it the same. So guys, this is a very important and big change under the GST law. And now moving forward to the next change which has been introduced under section 29. Under this change, the power of cancellation of registration has also been granted for the people who has obtained voluntary registration under the GST law. Earlier, this power was not available for the taxpayer who obtained GST registration voluntarily. The third change was under section 31. Under section 31, which talks about tax invoices to be issued under GST, which talks about the tax invoice provisions. Under Finance Act, the power was given to the government to specify certain categories of services for which they can decide and specify the time and manner of issuance of tax invoice. Now, this provision has been made effective from 1st January 2021, but government is yet to be issued notification for such supplier of services for which they want different time and manner for issuance of tax invoice. The fourth important change was under Section 51. Under Section 61, new rules will be framed by the government by way of a notification for issuance of tax deducted certificate, and the penal provisions for non-issuance of tax deducted certificate has been removed. So guys, this change is under the favor of government because TDS provisions are generally applicable on government entities, PSUs, banking sector, etc. So non-issuance of tax deducted certificate should be penalized, but this penal provision has been removed by the government. And the last and very important change was introduced under Section 122 and 132. These are penal provisions for wrongdoing under GST Act. Earlier, only supplier of services and the recipient were liable for the penal provisions for wrongdoings under the GST Act. Now, the government with this amendment introduced in Finance Act 2020 has also included all the middlemen who will be equally penalized for wrongdoings under the GST Act with the supplier and the recipient. So guys, now let's move forward to the next notification number 94, which came up with 3 important changes under the GST law. Let's start with the next notification number 94. So guys, the first and very important change introduced under notification 94 is GST registration procedure. Yes guys, under GST registration procedure, some very important changes has been introduced by way of issuance of notification number 94. The first and very important change is the government has extended the time limit for granting GST registration from 3 working days to 7 working days. The second change is under Rule 21, which talks about some instances for cancellation of registration by the proper officer. So in this rule, 3 important instances has been introduced by which now the proper officer has more power to cancel the registration. The first instance which has been introduced under Rule 21 is availment of input tax credit in violation of Section 16 of the CGST Act and rules made thereunder. So guys, if you will avail the wrong input tax credit, then your registration can be cancelled by the GST authority. So next time when you go and file your GST 3B, just keep in mind one thing, that wrong availment of input tax credit should not happen. Otherwise, it may lead to the cancellation of your GST registration. The second and very important change is, and the second and very important instance we can say, it is if the outward supplies reported in your GSTR 1 is in excess with the outward supplies reported in the GSTR 3B of the same month. So guys, let's take an example. If in under GSTR 1 you report outward supply of INR 100 rupees, so and you file your GSTR 3B for the said month and you report your outward supply INR 80. So guys, if you will report different outward supplies in these 2 GST returns, then it may lead to the cancellation of your GST registration. The third one is the violation of Rule 86B. Yes guys, this is a new rule which has been introduced and which we will discuss subsequently. The next important change which has been introduced under notification number 94 is against ITC rules for input tax credit availment. Yes guys, this important change has been introduced under Rule 36(4), which is for the restriction of input tax credit against those invoices which are not reported by the vendor in GSTR 1. Earlier, the ITC claim which could be taken for those invoices which were not reported by vendors was 10%. Now the same has been reduced to 5%. And the second important change under these rules are the word uploaded has been replaced with word furnished. Yes guys, that means if the vendor has filed GSTR 1, only that credit would be counted as eligible credit under this rule, and for that eligible credit you will be able to take availment of input tax credit against invoices not reported by vendors up to 5%. So guys, if your vendor only saves or upload the documents under the GSTR 1 and doesn't file it, then you cannot take it as a eligible credit and you cannot take availment of such credit. So it will be considered as the invoice which is not reported by the vendor. And now the third and very important change is introduced under notification 94 is introduction of new rule 86B. Yes guys, this rule is also made effective from 1st January 2021. This rule talks about the restriction of utilization of input tax credit available in your electronic credit ledger. Guys, if your taxable value other than exempt or zero rated is more than 50 lakh rupees per month, then you cannot utilize your electronic credit ledger balance up more than 99%. So guys, say for example your liability is INR 50 lakh rupees, then only 99% of your output tax liability can be paid through electronic credit ledger, and the remaining one needs to be paid by electronic cash ledger. So guys, but there are certain exceptions. This rule is not applicable for certain categories of person. The first category is if you're a taxpayer who has paid the income tax of more than 1 lakh rupees in preceding 2 years. The second category which is exempted from this rule is the person who has obtained a refund of INR more than 1 lakh rupees on account of unutilized input tax credit, either as an exporter or under inverted duty structure in the preceding financial year. And the third category is if you are a government or PSU organization, then you don't need to worry about this rule. It is not applicable on you. Guys, I hope you like this video and you really got an understanding of these changes. I'm again repeating, these changes are very, very important for you guys to understand to run your business. So guys, if you like my video and want to be more updated about GST and upcoming changes, so guys, what are you waiting for? Please go and subscribe my channel and like my videos and post your comments for further queries on this video. Thank you.